I've known for years and years in the real estate business. And Brad is a gentleman who has been in the real estate for a long time. He's had a lot of great things that have happened in his world, and he's been very successful in this business. He has recently, over the past, I don't know how many months, years, we're going to find out in just a moment, how he came to this point of jumping in and becoming an author as well. And Brad is the co-author of the Emyth for the Real Estate Agent. And based on the book by Michael Gerber, the Emyth, and also the Emyth Revisited. If you have not had a chance to read that book, I would highly recommend it. I know Brad will come on and say a few things about it. So, Brad, are you there?
I am here, buddy, ready to go.
Yeah. So, Brad, hey, welcome. Thanks for taking the time to spend a little time educating us. To set it up, Brad, I've read the Emyth Revisited. And the one thing that I remember from this book that's always stood out for me is about working on the business versus working in the business.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's a great launching point for you to start off, but that has always kept me in check. What do I need to be working on at all times?
Yeah. Well, no, that is great. And knowing that we have all kinds of people on this call. But when you say working on your business, here's the thing I know about this group right here. None of us are lazy agents. We're not sitting around doing nothing, and we're not sitting around twiddling our thumbs, and we're not sitting around playing around with goofy things, trying things out to see if they work. We're actually out there working all the time. And what I hope to do with this call is have such a profound impact on the way you think about your real estate business after today's call that you think like an Emyth business person. And what I mean by that is we're all working on our business. However, are you really systematizing it? Are you automating it? Are you setting it up so that it gives predictable, extraordinary service, which is what we all want to do? I mean, when we help a client, Dan, when you help a client, you deliver extraordinary service. Are you setting up your business and working on your business so that an ordinary person could join your team and deliver extraordinary service? And that's the piece that I think, that's the gap. And that's what we need to do is franchise or systematize our business. And that's where, if you read the Emyth Revisited now, between now and when the Emyth Real Estate Agent hits the bookshelves, I think you're going to have such a launching point and such a huge, deep understanding of what I'm really talking about here. And that's working on your business to create a franchisable, predictable standard for what your business will produce. Does that make sense?
It does. And Brad, one thing, I think something to set it up, I remember one thing he talked about in there and this is, besides working on it versus in it, he also talked about build your business or your systems in such a way that you are prepared to sell it.
Exactly. Says your business is always for sale. And it's interesting too, Dan, because when we go back a long ways, and there were two camps that everybody went to, and it was all about 100% referral business or marketing. I'm going to be the best of both of them. And then what I did, though, was reading the Emyth 20 years ago, realizing that I had actually implemented the book, and my business had been on autopilot. I mean, I say all the time, I sell 100 homes a year, every single year. January 2018 to December 2018, I will sell 100 homes again. Now, I'll sell more here and maybe a couple less, but not usually less. If I put more effort into it, I'll sell more that year. But it's a predictable 100 sales a year, every year, because I do a lot of other things too, training, speaking, all that other stuff as well. But it's about creating a predictable business that's not a roller coaster real estate business. And what we're going to talk about today, it's not dependent upon people. It's dependent upon your business systems that you create.
Okay.
So how this all came about, and many people on the call probably know that in 2015, my wife had a car accident, which that wasn't the worst part of it, guys. That she was in a little Juke. They're like little go-karts. This car kept her alive during a head-on collision. What did happen is the dash pushed her femur through a hip socket and blew out her hip at 43 or 45 years old. So she had to have hip surgery. That took her off her feet for 12 weeks. Well, she recovered completely from that after being off her hip, and she's a very active person for all of you that know her. But 2 weeks after she recovered, she just didn't wake up one morning. So she was snoring, and I hate to like even cut this story short, but I want to get to the material too. So don't think that there's like this isn't hard for me to do. It's doing it 1,000 times that I've been able to get through this quickly. Here's the deal. She didn't wake up one day. She was snoring. She was still breathing. Everything was fine. But about 10:30, she had not moved. Called 911. They got her stabilized. That we couldn't get her to wake up. She wouldn't respond to anything. She was just snoring. So they lost her on the way to the hospital when we were taking her to the ER, and that lack of oxygen put her into a coma. So I took her around the country, thank goodness to a system that I created 20 years ago that my business was running while I wasn't even thinking about it, right? And I took her to Lincoln, Nebraska, and I laid in that bed with her. You know, she was in a coma for 5 months. And it was an anoxic brain injury coma, so it's not like a brain injury coma where they might come out of it. But I didn't care. I was going to try everything. So I took her, I figured out who the best brain injury hospital was and took her there. And I sat by her side for 5 months until we could, finally realize that she really wasn't going to come back. You can't repair a lack of oxygen to your brain. You don't come back from it. The brain dies. While that was going on, I sold 97 homes with 2 people on my team. That one had just joined us a month or 2 before, and the other one had not sold real estate before and had only been with us for a year. Those 2 ladies sold 97 homes back here in Kansas City while I was in Lincoln, Nebraska, because of the systems I put in place. And here's what's even more profound, guys. I didn't even teach them the systems yet. The system just kept the business going. So when I say I do 100 homes a year, I'm like a lazy, I call myself a lazy realtor because I don't feel like I'm ever working to sell 100 homes a year. It just happens automatically. There's not a lot of effort. I probably put 10 to 15 hours of what I feel is real estate work into every week and sell 100 homes. So while I'm on this call today is because it is time to get out of our comfort zone as top producing agents. Get out of your comfort zone, because when bad things happen and you're above your comfort zone, it'll suck you back to your comfort zone. I've always been pushed by Tony DeCello. Dan, I mean, you and I were in a mastermind group with 10, 12 of the top agents for years. You guys pushed me out of my comfort zone. Every call I would go implement more stuff and get ahead. The thing about being out of your comfort zone is that when bad things happen, it'll suck you back to your comfort zone, and you can not have to worry about bills and cars and all that other stuff. Where if you're always at comfort and something bad happens, it sucks you below your comfort zone and your income comfort zone and all that other stuff, that now you have other things to worry about on top of what you have to worry about. So that's kind of the message today. So here's where it all starts. What we've interpreted through all the training is what you've interpreted. Your story is what it is. Your reality is what you've interpreted everything to be. And I kind of put it this way, and I know I can talk to this group, but religions, right? There's one God. We all know there's one God, but how many different interpretations of religious followings are there? Because Lutherans interpreted it this way, Catholics interpreted it this way, Baptists interpreted it this way. Well, the same thing has happened to us. We've got the books right in front of us. Millionaire Real Estate Agent, Millionaire Real Estate Investor. We got the one thing. So the one thing, you have all interpreted the one thing the way you've interpreted it. And the way I see a lot of people interpret that is they think, the one thing, I'm going to be the one open house. I'm going to master open houses. That's my one thing. I'm going to master FISBOs. That's my one thing. We've got those people all over in the industry, and they end up on stage at conferences because they sell hundreds and hundreds of homes doing that one thing. So they've mastered that one thing. When Michael and I talked about the Emyth and Emyth Revisited, by the way, the subtitle is Why Small Businesses Don't Work and What to Do About It. And it does not matter what industry we're talking about when we're talking about Emyth. That's why I wrote the Emyth Real Estate Agent, to give the real estate version of it. There is one thing that we all need to do. Every single agent across the board needs to master the one thing before they work on their one thing. Does that make sense, Dan?
It does.
Okay, so the one thing comes back to what we have heard for years and years and years. And the reason why I said I want this to have a profound impact on the way you think about your business after today is because I'm not really telling you anything you haven't heard before, but I'm going to tell you stuff that you haven't heard it interpreted this way by you before. So when I was coaching agents and going through all that, which now I'm more of a business development specialist than I am a coach. There's plenty of coaches out there. I want to support all that through the business development, teaching the one thing you have to do. It's like you have to learn this. Like it's something you do every single day. So the leads, listings, leverage, such a basic thing that everybody on this call has heard 1,000 times. The triangle, leads, listings, leverage. Here's the way I realized a lot of people didn't interpret it and how I did by implementing the Emyth. Is that we all love the leverage piece. Okay, we all know we want more leads and we got to get more leads to get more listings, and more listings, then you need leverage. But let's break it down into our everyday real estate activity. When somebody adds leverage, first of all, most people think leverage means add a person to the team. I got to hire an admin person. I got to hire a buyer's agent. I got to hire a marketing person. I got to hire a listing specialist. That's what we think of leverage. That's our interpretation, probably more than 95% of the time, talking and coaching with top real estate agents. When in actuality, what I learned was leverage. My first leverage piece was my systems, because what I've always coached to is before you add a person on your team. By the way, every time you guys hire somebody, do you feel a little stress? I mean, you think these people feel stress when they add people to their team, Dan?
Absolutely.
Because you got another salary you just committed to, you're looking at the dollars, all that stuff. So the bridge there is, once I got a system in place that took 80% stuff off my plate systematically, not with a person, right? Because a lot of top agents, what they do is hire an assistant. They give them all the stuff they don't want to do, which, by the way, how fun is that job? You just hire a brand new person. You're all excited about joining my team, and I'm going to give you everything I hate to do. And I'm going to keep doing some of the stuff I like to do, and it's still 80% stuff. So when most people leverage themselves, what they do is they leverage themselves and then they go do the stuff they like to do. They don't replace that newfound time with more of the other two things: more leads, more listings. More leads, more listings. So if I hire an admin person to take my supposedly 80% stuff off my plate, let's just say that frees me up 3 hours a day. We're supposed to replace that 3 hours a day with bringing in 3 hours worth of leads and 3 hours worth of listing appointments and buyer consultations. So what I did was I created a system that freed up my time, and then the only thing I replaced in that time was getting more leads and more listings so that I could double my business, so I could really hire the human being that I needed in there to do the hands-on stuff, right? And then once I hired the human being to come in my team and be an admin person, I replaced those new 3 hours with more leads and more listings. I always replace with one of those three things. If I'm putting a leverage piece in place and it frees up my time, I replace it with only two things: leads or listings. So everybody got that? Did I make that pretty clear?
Yeah, and you made a comment earlier when I was doing a little research. You talked about, systems are the first leverage, and then the people are the second leverage.
Yep.
Part of the piece.
Yep.
Is that correct?
Absolutely. So that's why I wrote this book, because it's about the systems inside that create. And there's a lot of systems. There's your client fulfillment system, or in this case, our client experience system. There is a lead conversion system. There is a management system to manage all the people once you bring them in. Now, first of all, understand that management system is managing me to keep me focused on my 20% before I put a person in there and have it manage them to their 20%. All right? So I'm actually putting these systems in place when it's just little old me. And there's a people system. There's systems for everything. That's what franchises do. When you go to McDonald's, they have 300% turnover And you get the same burger and the same fries every time you go in there, whether they started today or whether they've been there for 10 years. The burger doesn't get better with the guy that's cooking it for the last 10 years. It's the same burger. The problem that I see in our industry is everything is really, truly people driven. And I'll take the newest venture, if you guys haven't heard, is I'm in an expansion team, and I'm the regional manager developing the Midwest right now. And it's because what I see in expansion teams and big teams when people are building real estate teams is it was all driven by the rainmaker. They're the ones that picked up the phone, and everyone on this call, you probably have a passion enough for real estate. You're going to be able to get to 200, maybe 300 sales a year with a little bit of leverage. And I'm talking about an assistant and a buyer's agent and all that stuff. But you'll find that it's all completely driven by you pushing it through. And when I say that is when I look at a lot of these big teams, I don't see the 10 people on their expansion team all doing 100 sales a year instantly. Like they can't say in 2018, we have 20 people in our expansion group, all 20 of them will do 100 deals. Why? This system is a guaranteed, and I hate when people say you can't use the word guarantee. Guys, I've been guaranteed 100 sales a year every year for the last 20 years. It's just automatic. So when you can take an average person, whether they're brand new, experienced, whatever, and you can plug them into a system and say, you're going to do 10 deals this month. The only way you can't do it is you don't show up. But everything truly is more people driven, which is why I see too many teams where they're selling one house, two houses, three houses a month. And Gary has told us all this stuff for years, right? I mean, if you get a team member to get to 3 to 4 sales a month, which there aren't very many, and he's meaning like less than 1%, can you go to a team and find every team member is selling 5, 6, 7 homes a month? It doesn't really exist. The reason why is we're all still relying on people to drive the business, not the system. So the system drives the business. It's predictable. It gets you off the roller coaster. The people just run the system. So that's what I'm going to kind of talk to you guys about today. And I wanted to overview a few chapters of the book to kind of tell you what some of those systems are. Do you think I set that up?
Hey, one quick thing, Brad. You made a comment. I don't mean to sidetrack you.
No, yeah.
You made a comment earlier when I was reading one of when I was reading one of the stories you wrote, you talked about you systematize your business where if you added 5 people a day to your database, that created, you knew you were going to get 100 sites a year.
Yep.
And he goes and talks about what Gary talks about right now. He's saying if you want to recession-proof your business, you got to have a massive database. So I just ran your numbers. So you're adding 150 people a month, 1,800 a year.
Well, I actually take weekends off, Dan. So it's 1,200 people a year that you're adding to your database. And I'll even add one other thing, because I know Gary had started a message about, and I don't know if he's still carrying this through. He said, get your database to 6,000 people and you'll never have you'll have a recession-proof business, right?
That's correct.
So we're talking about 1,200 people a year for 5 years is 6,000 people in your database. Now that sounds like a lot. It's 5 people a day. Now, if you have a team of 3 people and you all add 5 people a day, you're adding 15 people a day to the database. So here's where the problem is. The problem is we're not doing it every single day. So again, this book, I'm writing this book because this is what I saw. The 4 steps of lead generation, or the 4 things of lead generation, are 1, build a database. 2, feed it every day. Now, guys, write down every day, every day, every day. Gary Keller did not write feed your database on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday and put 15 people in instead of 5 a day. He said feed your database every single day. Then you communicate with it systematically, right? And then you service all the leads that come your way so they'll give you more business. This whole thing that I set up was based on those 4 things. I created an awesome database, and it wasn't a database. It was a contact management system that managed my communication back to these contacts. And for this group, I'll give you a quick visual. You own a bank. Your real estate business is a bank. You're the bank owner, right? and you're sitting at your desk, and right over there is the vault. I'm talking the big vault with the big spinning knob on the thing, right? Open that round door up and look inside. There's a tons and tons of stacks of dollar bills in there. That is your database. Your database is a bank vault, and every one of those contacts are money to your business. The biggest mistake I see so many people make, 99.9% of them that I've ever coached, is they want to hire somebody for 8, 10, 12 bucks an hour, and even paying them 15 is still going to get you the same thing. Somebody off the street to go in and clean up their database. Do you realize you just walked out the bank doors onto the street and said, hey, you look pretty sharp. You want to come in here and clean up my bank vault? And that's like the perspective I want you guys to have on your business from now on. Every single name in your database is a stack of bills, $100 bills. And so if you don't have an address and you don't have a phone number, what you've got is a bunch of stacks of bills where the paper thing is tearing loose and bills are falling out, and you're walking into your bank vault and there's like dollar bills laying on the floor and stacks are tipped over and nothing's organized. Guys, that database is your bank vault. This is the way I thought when I got in. So I heard one thing, build a database. Okay, I did that. Step 2, feed it every day. Okay, I did that. I fed my database every single day for 6 months. Like, I didn't even have the follow-up system in place because the 8x8 was easy enough for me to do, right? 8 touches in 8 weeks, okay, I can do that. But when I got to 33 touch, I was just here. You guys have all been here. Oh, man, that's a lot. What am I going to put in there? And what am I going to do? And this and that. And what's that look like? And is it all email? And I just started feeding the database every day. So I quit worrying about what that system was. Until I developed the habit of feeding it every day, I didn't even need to worry about what my 33 touch looks like. So a lot of agents build this in reverse. In fact, Dan, you're responsible for the 33 touch that I teach because I literally had fed my database every day for 6 months, 6 months, 6 months. I even had, and if I can put this in perspective, I had campaigns and action plans. Just write down campaigns and action plans. That was how I automated the 8x8 and the 33 touch. And just about every contact management system has a campaign or action plan type thing built in there. So what I did was I created a series of events that I wanted to happen, 8 events over 8 weeks. And when I hit the start button, I wanted it to go. And I'll give you guys a little, this is an advanced note, no cascading. Cross out the word cascading. Cascading means step 2 doesn't happen until step 1. Guys, I turned on a system that I couldn't turn off because it doesn't say send item 2 of the 8x8 if you have time. It says communicate systematically, consistently, persistently, chop, 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 chop. So my systems are set up so I cannot turn them off. And what that did for me, Dan, was it forced me to do what I needed to do. I had a reminder to feed 5 in every day. Well, half the time I was like, well, crap, what 5 am I putting in today? It didn't matter. I just found 5 people that I knew and I put them in because that's what the system said to do. Then the system said on week 4 to make a call. Well, I only did 5 a day, so I'm not going to have more than 5 calls in a day, right? Because I'm putting in 5 a day, and 4 weeks from now, those 5 people, a call will pop up. So I can knock out 5 calls a day. And if I was super busy and things were blowing up and fires were happening all over, I still had my 5 people I had to call. So I did that because the system told me I had to do the system stuff first. When I got to the 33 touch, I'm just like everybody. It's like, oh my God, what am I going to send 33 times a year? Well, luckily you guys were promoting your 21 days. What would you call your 21-day thing? The chicken soup from the soul.
Chicken soup from the soul.
Literally, dude, I copied and pasted. I Googled why geese fly in a V formation. I copied the story and pasted it in a letter, a blank template that I created, and that became touch number 27 in my 33. I didn't care what the content was because nothing in here does it say, come up with great content and then touch them systematically. No, you just got to keep your name and logo in front of them so when they think of real estate, they think of you. So for anyone on this call, and I know Brett knows my stuff real well because I've been talking about this for 20 years, it's stupid when you read this content. Dan, you've seen it. It's stupid stuff. I say stupid stuff like meaning it's not going to get them to buy and sell real estate today. And then I just go back to Gary Keller has told us for years and years and years and years. You're not going to make somebody sell their house today, right? You just have to make sure they think of you when they are ready to sell their house. So the content has nothing to do with it, right? So that's where the systems came in. And as I went through the Emyth book, what happened was February of 2016, I was kind of just reflecting on things. And by the way, I'm still selling real estate, 100 homes a year. It's on autopilot. But I was really reflecting on, Sonia being gone and all that stuff, because I lost her in November of 2015. And I looked up and saw the Emyth book sitting on my shelf, and I thought, oh my gosh, that's the secret. I implemented that 20 years ago. And then when Millionaire Real Estate Agent came out, I was able to put real estate terms with what I was already doing. So that's when I called Gerber. I just Googled it, and I just Googled Gerber. I found a phone number. I left a voicemail. I didn't even know if he'd get it. I didn't even know if it was his number. And I said, Mr. Gerber, you don't know me from Adam. I implemented your book 20 years ago, and you just gave me 5 months with my wife. I mean, I sold 97 homes, and I never worried about my bills once. He called me back like 2 days later and said, you want to write the Emyth Real Estate Agent book? And I was kind of floored. I was like, oh, wow, writing a book? Okay, the hardest thing I ever did was write the Make the Phone Ring Again course. Now writing a book. But anyway, so you want me to spend the next like 10, 15 minutes just kind of running through the chapters and the types of systems you guys want to spend?
I think it'd be, when I was looking to read through, I like the part, if you could talk about the 2 accounts.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's the money system.
Talk about the 5 times return.
Yep.
If you would, let's hit there first, if you don't mind.
No, those are actually, I'm glad you picked up on that, Dan, because those are the 2 simplest systems that I put in place, and they are in the very first couple chapters of the book. I think it's chapter 4, actually. So here's your money system. Guys, if you want to find out if you're profitable or not, I get, that we have profit and loss statements, and our coaches keep us accountable to tracking the right numbers and doing all that stuff. We need all that, right? A big business needs a profit and loss system. But I'm going to take everything all the way back to the simple that will make an ordinary person extraordinary. So you want to know if you have profit. And one of the best ways to prevent embezzlement. I set up 2 accounts when I heard this. I went to franchise systems orientations. They tell you how to run a real estate business. Guys, all we're doing is repeating some of the systems that Keller Williams puts in place when they open a market center. They have a capital account and they have an operating account. Now, I'm going to put that into terms for every single agent on this call. You have 2 bank accounts. I don't care if it's 2 checking accounts or whatever. Don't get caught up in that. One account is where you deposit every single commission check that ever comes into your hands. You don't touch anything in that. You put it into your capital account. So I dump every dollar into my capital account for my business. Now, I did a good thing. I listened to my business coach, and we tracked down what my expenses were every month. What are my set, expenses? What are my variable expenses and all that other stuff? So I know what my budget is every month. So this is the most simple way to come up with capital, operating, and a budget. Figure out how much money goes out of your business every single month, no matter what. And let's just say, you didn't do this once a month or twice a month. It doesn't matter. I did it twice a month. So I deposit every commission dollar into my capital account. Now, I know I have to write a check for $10,000 every 2 weeks to my business checking account to pay for payroll, rent, stamps, office supplies, all that stuff. It's $10,000 every 2 weeks. It's $20,000 a month. So when I started this, sometimes I was only putting $8,000 in my capital account, right? But I only took out $4,000 on week 2 and $4,000 on week 1 and $4,000 the second time that month. And I had to cut back my expenses, right? So it got to the point where I might have deposited $40,000 in my capital account, which actually this was March, April, May of last year, or this year, I'm sorry. May of this year, I closed 13 deals with nobody on my team. My team dissipated. Those 2 people left me. And I had 13 closings on the book, so I put over $60,000 in my capital account, but I still only spent $20,000 on my business because on the first I put $10,000 in and I paid my bills, and then on the 15th I put $10,000 in and paid my bills. So there was money left over in my capital account. That was my profit for the month. Did I make that sound simple, or did I really confuse that?
You did, but what I got from when I was listening earlier, if you can, you're budgeting,
yep,
and you're watching the money going in, and if there's not enough, if you're also if your operating account is getting too big, you don't have enough going in the capital account, you gotta create some different actions.
Yeah. Right. So what I did was I wanted to get to the point where I was offering profit sharing to be on my team. Well, the best way to do that is we do it at Keller Williams. We pay all the bills. Whatever's left over is profit, goes into the profit sharing pool and gets distributed. So that's why these two accounts made so much sense to me. And where you'll find the biggest struggle is first of all, having enough money in your capital account to pay your bills. Well, that just means you're out of budget. And if you have a team running your business and they come to you and say, we need more money in the account, it allows you to stop for 1 second and go, okay, why are we off? Because we deposited enough to cover the bills this month. What's out of budget? So it doesn't mean you won't make a third deposit occasionally or a fourth deposit occasionally out of your capital account into your operating account. But there's only one person that has access to these two accounts, and that's you. And that's how market centers are run. They get the money deposited and they have to live off of that money. So that's why I say it could stop in any embezzlement, because nobody else gets access to these two accounts. And you're just putting in what the team needs rather than just depositing money into one account and then spending it as you go. You just overspend sometimes. So it'll put you into a budget mindset. That is the first step to move towards a real true profit and loss statement.
Okay, Brad, so let me, with that, you went on and you talked about the inventory of current systems.
Yep.
What was the important at regarding ROI? Can you kind of speak on that for just a moment?
Yeah, this is how I got my coaching clients to pay for their coaching their first year. Because sometimes people, the thing with coaches, Dan, we don't really get a lot of credit for what we do because you guys are out there doing the work every day. You're implementing the stuff, you're putting in place, and then you start to have success. And it seems like the first thing they want to take off their checkbook is that coaching, fee. We look at it a fee, but it's an investment, right? And we're not going around taking credit for it because you're doing all the work. But we're that little voice in your head that keeps you doing it. So as soon as you unplug from that, we see it happen time and time again. So one of the things I did to just justify coaching so I could show them you have paid for coaching 5 times over already. I had to make a list, do an inventory of everything you have right now. And what we're looking for and what we're going to track is, are you getting a 5 to 10 times return? So let me take 2 steps back here. There's a lot of things out there that get a 2 times return and 3 times return. So you're not losing money. Some of the where you're buying leads from some of these companies, they're good enough right now that you will double your money. So it might cost you $24,000 for the whole year to have this program, something that's costing you $2,000 a month. And you make 50 or 60 grand on it. Most agents will keep doing that forever because they're not losing money. What Gary has told us forever, and I know you've heard this, Dan, is that you're wasting that dollar on that for a 2 times return because there are some things that can get you 5 to 10 times return if you take that dollar and reinvest it more wisely, right? So the inventory list with a 5 times return or higher, what you do is write down everything that you pay for. And if it's a lead service that costs you monthly, so what you have is, what's the item, right? And are you paying monthly for it, or is it a contract term? And how much have you spent on this thing so far? So one of the lead sources is $2,000 a month. So I'd write the name of the company that's getting me that, right? It's costing me $2,000 a month. I'm in a 1-year contract, so my total investment is going to be $24,000. So I might be 2 months into it, right? So now I got to figure out $24,000. I'm stuck in it. How much I need to make $240,000 off of this item, or I'm not going to keep it after this. So now the thought process turns more into, how do I make $240,000 this year from that? So that means next month I need to get $24,000 from something I'm paying $2,000 for. Now, if I get $4,000, that's a long ways away from 24,000, but it's got me hammering focused on it. So one of them that I had, we had 1,000 leads in the first year we were in the system. And it's got the back end system, and it tells you when you're supposed to call them again next, and it'll even flag the lender and tell them they got to call them next. And I tracked it. We had 1,000 leads. We got 100 of those leads into our database. Only 100 that we actually got on the phone, had a good conversation, got their address and phone number. But out of those 100 that we got in the database, 24 of them closed that first year. So 24 closings was about 50 grand. So I paid $24,000. My buyer's agent made 40 something thousand dollars. And out of my 40,000, I spent 24. So I netted about 20, right? So my buyer's agent all day long, you can't get rid of that. Well, of course not. You made 50 grand and I made 20. This is wrong. I'm the one writing the $20,000 checks every year, and I made 20 and you made 40. That's just wrong. So here's what I'll do. This year, I want to see 300 people in the database. See where I started? I didn't say I need 75 closings. I said I need 300 of those people in the database. If you get 300 people in the database, I know my system will produce 75 sales, by the way. I know I'll get 75 sales, and if that happens, I'll sign a 10-year contract, right? Guess what we did our second year? 100 new people in the database, 24 more closings, because those are the ones that are falling out of the sky. 1,000 people came through the system. 1% of that is what, I guess 1% is 10, right? So it's a little better than 10%, but not much. It's about 2.4% is what we got out of that system. That's just the business that falls out of the sky. Well, I don't need to pay $2,000 a month for business to fall out of the sky. So that's how you get a 5 times return. So I would, and if it's something that's sitting on your bookshelf, like an expired system that you might have bought and you paid $500 for it, write expired system, write $500. There is no monthly investment. It's been sitting on my bookshelf for 5 years. Okay. How do you pull that off and come up with a business plan to make $5,000 off of that expired system? And so then you sit down and say, okay, well, I'm going to make my money back on this deal. 10 times return. I paid $500 for it. Let's make 5 grand. And then you can decide if you want to keep it or not. But once you create that system that creates $5,000, you're going to keep going and you have no more investment in that. So I do an inventory. If it's something you can cancel, if it's month to month, even if it's $39 and it's month to month, and I can't figure out how to make $390 every single month off of it, then I dump it. I cancel it. Get rid of it. Because you're going to have enough things that you're focused on for a 5 or 10 times return that you'll pass up on a lot of stuff. I mean, all of you guys on this call, you do really cool stuff. And I'm that boring agent that doesn't do most of the really fun, cool stuff that you guys do because I couldn't come up with a system to get a 5 times return. I figured out how to do twice and get my money back or double, but I just wouldn't do some of the things just because they're cool and fun, if that makes sense.
Do you do this the same way, not only with the systems, the software programs, etc.? Do you do this with talent that you brought on the team as well?
Oh my gosh, yeah. So here's a conversation. Once I figured this out, I sat down with my assistant, and we had a great assistant. I had a team of 8 people, 4 buyer's agents, me, Sonia, an admin person, and a marketing person. So we had 8 people on our team. I sat down, when I got this, I sat down with my assistant, and I said, so she's making $40,000 a year is what I said as her salary, and she made about $10,000 in bonuses. So she's costing me 50 grand a year. And I said, I need to know, like, I want to pay you huge raises. And we need to figure out what you're doing specifically to bring in $500,000 to my bottom line. Now think about this conversation with your assistant. I said, we need to figure out how you're responsible for bringing in $500,000, because if you're making 50 grand a year now and you bring me $100,000 in income next year directly related to something you're doing, you think I'm going to give you a 5% raise? Heck no, I'm going to give you a 20 grand bonus, right? That you just put $100,000 in my pocket from something you did specifically. Here was her response. Well, what am I supposed to do to bring money in, Brad? I just answer the phone and they ask what they need and I get them to the right person. And I said, well, how could you bring money to our bottom line? Net money to our bottom line. And she's like, and I said, what do you do all day? So I talk to clients. Great. What if every single time that phone rang, you actually said, hey, who is the next person you know that's buying or selling real estate? Okay, she takes 40 calls a day at this time, right? That's 400 calls. Well, 10 days is 400 calls. A month, she's taken 800 calls. If she asked that question 800 times every single day, day in and day out, I guarantee you she would have made 100 grand come to our bottom line. But they don't think about that, right? So, I just said you gotta protect your salary, because right now the first thing I'm going to cut out is a salary when things get tight. And the market was turning. I knew it was turning. I said the last thing I want to ever be put in is a position that I have to come and cut your salary out because things are getting tight. That would be the worst thing that could happen to my business, and I don't want to do that to you and your family. So you're just helping them protect themselves in the business. So now here's a profound way to think about your business. Every single person on your team needs to bring in 5 times to the bottom line what they're costing you to be there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
you mentioned again, going back to an earlier comment on one of the posts you put, you said before you hire a person, have them put together what?
Oh, yeah. So whenever people are hiring people, it's like, I'm going to hire a marketing person. And so a lot of this came from coaching and stuff. So I'm thinking, how do they make sure they hire the right person? So when they have like a marketing person that they need to hire for their team, I said, okay, how many people are you hiring? Well, I got 3 interviews. Okay, well, let's do this then. Why don't you have them earn this position and make sure you hire a talented person? Tell them part of the interview process is for them to come up with a marketing plan, a business plan that's going to add X amount of dollars to their bottom line. So if you're going to pay them 100 grand a year, they need to show you the plan that will make you 500,000 to $1 million. And you have 3 people come back and present their plans to you. You're going to hire the best one, the one that really came up with an awesome business plan, but then you got the right person right out of the chute, and you're going to get 2 other business plans to go along with it that you might be able to do something with. So I just thought it was genius that, get these business plans from people, hold them accountable. Don't just go interview and say, I really like them and hire them. You're going to fire 80% of the people that come through that line. So this kind of goes back to the whole talent thing, where you all have to be careful. There's a whole book written on talent is overrated. The thing about talent that we've misinterpreted is that if you have a great system that is predictable and it makes an ordinary person deliver extraordinary results, and you put a talented person into that system, you will get a 5 to 10 times return out of that person, right? So it's not about hiring talented people to build, to rely on the people to drive your business, because those people will continue to leave us. And if you really think about everything we've ever heard, if it's the 80-20 rule, 20 is good people, right? 80% of the people that we hire will do 20% of the results, and 20% of the people we hire will get 80% of the results. So really, technically, if you want to hire 5 talented people on your team, you need to hire 100 right now today. Hire 100 of them, shake the 80 out quick, and then you got to figure out who the 15 are that are just okay and good. Not really good enough to fire, but you need to find those 20 people to find the 5 that are going to be extraordinary. That's a people-driven model. You want to have a system-driven model and plug people into it, and it will make your talented people outperform 10 times more than they ever thought they would.
That's powerful. So I could keep going. What have you not shared that we need to make sure we're aware of?
Well, I'm going to give you guys, there's a lot to cover here. We can't ever master all this stuff in one call. And I'm going to give you guys a site right now. Write this down. This is how you'll be one of the first to know when the book comes out. And honestly, how you guys can help me. I want to sell 25,000 books. I want this to be a New York Times bestseller, because it complements every single thing every agent already does in this business. It just brings it back to the core one thing that they got to get in place, so that they can get these amplified 5 and 10 times results from everything you're doing right now. Okay, so it's simple. It's www.emythrealestateagent.com. emythrealestateagent.com. And when you go sign in there, as soon as you hit submit, you'll be on the list to know when the book comes out, but you'll go straight to a resource site where you can watch the detailed webinar on this that overviews the book. But like the perfect process is in chapter, I think, 6 in the book, where how do you create these perfect processes so your clients have unbelievable service. And the three-legged stool in the E-Myth is lead capture, lead conversion, and client fulfillment system. Guys, that is leads, listings, and leverage. And the leverage, the listings is delivering your clients experience so high that they will refer you people. The leverage piece are the systems that it does everything. Like the perfect process creates your management system, it creates your people system, it holds people accountable to every piece of the business. And I take people through a process on that. I actually have set up over 24 teams, and I think they're all Keller Williams actually. But I have set up and automated big teams in 2 days going through this process. So it's documenting everything you do to deliver the level of service that you do, turning it on autopilot and making sure that nothing slips through the cracks. So I'll give you one quick overview here. One of the things I do is I have everybody on the team track everything they do for 2 weeks. They write everything down. What I do is I have people track everything they do for 2 solid weeks. Write down everything you do as if we were all going to leave on a 2-week vacation. We're going to hire a temp company to come run our business, and we'll still pay you while we're on this 2-week vacation because the temp company will do your job while you're gone. So I need that detailed of a list. And one of the things that I found when people go through this first process is that your frustration you feel from your team is if you wrote down the list of what you think your team is doing and they write down what they're actually doing, and you get those 2 lists together, cross off the duplicates off your list. Everything they wrote on their list, cross it off of your list. Whatever's left on your list is your frustration level because they didn't think that was important enough to be doing. They missed it. They didn't catch it. It's not getting done. And that's where your frustration's coming from. So once you get the system in place and it's automated, nobody can skip anything. And if they do, they're out because it'll be accountable.
And what the rest of the remaining color was what?
A lot of yellows. And, some of the top agents will have a lot of orange on there because, like, the people we hang around, the reason why I love hanging around you and Brett Ellis and all these guys and these top agents is because everybody's about life and spending time with their family. Yet the problem is that we're putting our whole business in the hands of people-driven systems, not systems driven by people. You know what I mean? Right. So it's not predictable. Just 5 months like I did. And if you do the same amount of business this year during that 5 months, and you're going to do it again when you come back in 5 months, then you're a system-driven business. So that was my wake-up call, was being with Sonia for 5 months. And I knew I couldn't leave her either because the nurses couldn't take care of her. She's totally 100% reliant on somebody else cleaning her up and doing everything while she was in this coma. Her body moved and did stuff, but when I came back and realized I did the same amount of sales I do every year with 2 people, it's like, oh my gosh, Don't.
Well, hey, here's the thing. You have a business if you can walk away and it still produces while you're gone.
Yep. Well, and if I skip the absolute one core thing that must be done, just like brushing my teeth, which is feed it every day. Believe me, I have already been through 6, 7, 8, 10 times in my business over the 20 years where I didn't feed it for a while, and 6 months later, I felt the hurt on that. So it's one thing. Until you add 5 people, 5 relationships in your database every single day, don't brush your teeth until you've added your 5 people in your database. That's how serious this is. And one other thing, real quick. Don't get caught up in your interpretations, okay? I'm seeing a lot of people talking about adding 5 nurturers a day. Here's what I'm finding on my expansion experience so far. is that nurtures and feeding the database with haven't mets, or let's just call them not connected. We got these internet leads coming in, and we're nurturing them through like full automated email campaigns and drips, and you got the videos that go out and all the service providers that provide all these really fun drip ways. And if you have calls built into it, that's important. But what I'm experiencing right now is somebody calling, an ISA calling a nurture who's never answered the phone does not count as a connection. Okay?
Yeah.
These people are avoiding you. So what we're doing is feeding 30,000 haven't mets into our database, and we're waiting for 1% to shake out. So don't get caught up in just feeding your database and nurturing. You need 5 relationships a day.
You had talked about taking action moving forward.
Yes. Yeah, so
talk on that.
Yeah, there's a real simple process here, guys. So here's the numbers I want you to hear. If you get 5,000 people in your database, or 6,000 people in your database over a 5-year period, which is 1,200 people a year, that's 5 people a day. If you had 5,000 people in your database, and they're moving every 7 years, that is 714 people that are moving every single month for the next 7 years. So here's what I do not see happening in our industry. Pretty much everybody on this call probably has 5,000 people in their database, and this is the difference between a connected and a not connected. If you have 5,000 connections, you make 5 connections a day, 5 days a week, every week. That's 714 transactions without ever getting a sign call, ad call, internet lead, anything, right? That's 714 people that are moving every single year in just 5 years of adding 1,000 people a year. I know I'm kind of bouncing all over with the numbers, but what we have to realize is that if every team member that came into your team just fed your system 5 new contacts a day, and they did that every year, and you have 10 people, that's 50,000 people, and that's 7,140 transactions a year. Those numbers are real, okay? They are so real, it's scary in the fact that I don't know where all your business is going, but if you have a database of 30,000 people, you should be closing 6,000 deals a year, every year. And I'm watching these big teams close, 400, 500, 600 deals a year. Where are the other 2,400 deals? Or actually, I mathed that wrong, 5,400 other deals. And even if they're staying in the house every 10 years, these 30,000 people databases should be kicking out 3,000 deals a year.
It becomes predictable.
It's predictable. I had to create a predictable business 20 years ago because I went through a divorce and I had 3 daughters that were like 3, 5, and 7. And I was relying on a commission-only business to support my kids and not have to rely on anything, right? So I had to have a predictable business, and that's right when the Emyth showed up in my life, and I implemented it, and it's been predictable ever since. So, yes.
So, this is terrific information. Hey, Chance.
Thank you both very much. So I guess one question I do have, not necessarily in AHA, is in your experience of the expansion team, what are the best ways of adding the 5 people to your database every single day?
Awesome. Okay, Chance, you are not going to like my answer, but it's the right answer, okay? It has to be easy, simple, a system that anybody could do. We're talking about build everything around average people doing it. So, for example, in my contact management system, I do not buy all my team members access to the database. What you are doing, and this is just my opinion, but it's a really, really strong opinion. What you are doing is you're giving every bank employee access to the bank vault to go in whenever they want. They will screw up. You guys already know this. They're screwing up your database so bad. It's horrible, and it's not their fault. They shouldn't have to know which plan to put somebody on next. You need a bank manager to manage that information. So here's how I did it very simply. and it just hit me. It hit me in a coaching call. Actually, we were trying to figure out how do we get them to feed every day. And it's like, oh my gosh, like a web capture form. You know, when you go to a website, it says I want to buy or I want to sell. It just has name, address, phone number, and then a comment section where they can put any notes. I created web capture forms for each team member so that it knew that when they filled in that form and hit submit, that they had clicked on a link that might have been a lead not connected, right? So it means I gave them a lead. They had the phone number, they had some information, maybe an email address. They put it in and they hit submit. That person is going to come into my contact management system, and automatically the system knows if it comes in from this form, just start the 12 touch because they haven't met. They go to a chamber event and they have a two-way conversation with somebody, and my team's getting trained to get address and phone number, right? As a real estate agent, we have the tax records and we can find 70% of the people in the tax records. So you find, what neighborhood do you live in? Oh, yeah, I know that neighborhood. Now I made notes so that when I get out of that conversation, I didn't have to say, can I have your address and phone number to follow up with you? No, this is just having conversations, right? But I got really good at figuring out their address, phone number, whatever I could. And I would go to the connected link and I click on that and the form looks exactly the same. But in my notes, I put met at the chamber event, whatever. So when that comes into the system, because it came in through the connected part, it automatically started the 8x8. Now my team members, all they did was put the person in. What's going to happen is 3 things just went in the mail and email over the next 3 weeks. Week 4, I hand them a name, and it's that guy's name that they met at the chamber 4 weeks ago, and it says, hey, here's your people to call today. And then in 8 weeks, all they get is their call list. So their to-dos and their calls to go find them on social media and send them a direct message or their calls. Where the team value came in is all the touches are going out behind the scenes that they don't even know about. But I'm telling you, when they call these people back, they answer the phone. They're like, oh, hey, what's up? Because they feel connected to them through our system. Does that make sense?
Yeah. This is terrific.
And it sounded like earlier you made a distinction between nurture and a connection.
Yes. Good point.
What are your opinions? What are your perspectives of the differences there?
Okay, so this is a really big comment that I hope you guys get. The problem with our industry is we've been taught and brought up our entire life to go find the next deal, right? So I say this about Bold all the time. Bold is the most incredible thing you can go through because it forces you to do what you're supposed to do. Now, where we see it is who's really doing all their calls, who's really making 20 contacts every day for 7 weeks straight. That's why they don't get the results, because if they just follow the system, they're predictable results. So on this, when you're making 20 calls a day, 100 calls a week during Bold, what I've seen happen too much is that 5 or 10 people made it into the database out of those 100 two-way conversations, when in actuality, if you had two-way conversations, you should have added 100 people to your database, not just 10, because 90 of those 100 people are the people that are moving next year, the year after that, and the year after that. So we put all this effort into getting people on the phone, and the people that don't hang up on us right away, they're at least nice. It doesn't matter that they're not buying real estate right now. In fact, during Bold, you don't even really have to talk about real estate. Just get those connections in your database every single day, and then 8x8 and 33 touch and call them 2 times in 8 weeks, and in the 33 touch, call them 4 times over the next 12 months with 4 social media touches, and then let some other stuff drip in between. You'll have 100 closed sales from those 100 people that week in Bold over the next 7 to 10 years. You'll have 100 sales. Now take that times 7. That's 700 closings, guaranteed, predictable, right? If you stayed in touch with all 700 of them for the next 7 years. That's the difference.
Guys, this is great stuff. Brad, I really appreciate what you've done and taking time out of your busy week to help us out. And,
well, this is why I'm passionate about this book coming out, guys. I mean, our industry needs it so bad. These agents are getting in. Agents are coming to you as their last resort. they're not making their house payment. They're not going to make next month's bills. They're coming to you to be successful. And there's too many teams out there where somebody's selling 1 or 2 houses a month and they're bouncing from this team to that team, or they're getting out of real estate. If you guys can prevent or have that predictable landing point that will guarantee to pull them out of that system, your team members will never leave you, and you'll do 5 to 10 times more business. That's why I'm so passionate about this book coming out. It's going to change the real estate industry. And believe me, I'm humbled to say that, because I'm just little old Brad Korn in Kansas City, but I had 3 girls and I was in a hole and I had to make this work, or I was going to let my girls down and they live in poverty their whole life or whatever. Who knows what would happen? That I was like, this what they're teaching us is not working. Everybody's coming in the same situation I am. So I had to have a predictable business, and this is how my brain interpreted it. I think it's the most basic way. It is, well, talking to Gerber, he's like, you nailed it. That's why you're writing the book. There's one thing you have to do, and then you can go get really good at your other one thing. But until you're feeding every single day 5 new connections and have a systematic way to stay in touch with them, all this other stuff we're doing is going to continue to get the results it's always gotten.
Well, here's the thing. It's all about knowing your big why. You're talking about your 3 girls.
Oh, yeah.
Why that drives you, and then have a system that you follow. It's not about this. It's not about selling real estate. It's about following the schedule, like that bold boss says. Hey, guys, I want to respect everybody's time. Thank you for coming in on this call today. Brad, you were terrific and awesome as usual. And
thank you, bud.
I can't say thank you enough.
Thank you, bud. And Gary's done something similar to this too, on figuring out if you're in your 20% or your 80%. You've heard him talk about the calendar, where every 5 or 10 minutes you write down what you're doing, or every 30 minutes is easier. Every 30 minutes, write down what you're doing for 2 solid weeks. And then highlight in green what's 20%, like actually bringing new dollars to the bottom line, not negotiating inspections, not getting the contract turned in so you can get paid. We're talking about they signed a listing agreement or they signed a buyer's agency agreement. That's green, right? Or a new lead coming in that you converted their name, address, phone number, and they're going to buy in the next 30 days. That's green. So it's leads, listings, leverage. Everything that is, you highlight everything yellow that is something you could give to somebody else. If money were no object, I could just write you a check every month and you could pay and hire as many people as you needed. Highlight everything in yellow that somebody else could do. You don't have to be the one to do it. And then the last thing is orange. And orange is all personal stuff that you cannot give to anybody, but it doesn't make you any money. Like going to your kid's soccer game, or going to Houston to contribute this past week, whatever it might be. That you can't give to somebody else. So I have them do that exercise.
And I think you said when I was listening earlier, you talked about what the results ended up being. Only that 10% of the calendar ended up being highlighted in green.
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't coached anybody that was over 20, even at 20%. I've never seen it.